Hi, team. I'm Dr. Miranda, and this week we have a lot of territory to cover. We're going to do a deep rubric analysis. This is not a very complicated um assignment. We're going to be focusing on milestone one. There are certain details that could be very easy to overlook. So that's why I provide this review so that those particular steps um, are avoided. We're going to take a look first at some of the assignments that we're going to be looking at this week. Okay. And of course, we're going to be focusing on Module 4 on the time value of money. This is going to be a critical element for you to understand basically how much your money is worth at a given point of time. How much is worth now versus how much it will be worth in 10 years. I can't stress enough the need for you to go into the materials, go into the learning resources that we provide for you, okay? And go also to the additional resources that I provide for you. Okay. Always is a great idea for you to go into the Module 4 overview. It contains some really great nuggets, okay, as well as the module reading and resources. This is a really great textbook. It's not a complicated textbook at all. But here at SNHU, we also believe in the power of multimedia in terms of coming beside you, using the multimedia to enhance the understanding of the course material. And this particular videos, it's from the Khan Academy video tutorials. These are excellent resources. They're not lengthy, but they are just right on point. Okay, so I strongly urge you, take a look at compound interest basics. There's only 2 videos of those. And then the present value. Again, the time value of money, introduction to present value 2, 3, and 4, particularly when it comes to the discounted cash flow. This is going to be at the very heart of this course. You're going to have to understand what present value is and the time value of money. It will come in handy, particularly on the buy versus this rent decision that you make, as well as on your milestone assignments. So this is something that you're going to have to get under your belt. But the concepts are not very hard. They're very easy to get, especially if you don't have a financial background. You're going to be astounded how easy this is, and you know how easy to absorb this concept is. There's 2 major assignments this week. Okay, it's a very tough week in terms of assignments. You have a discussion post as well as a milestone 1 paper. Okay. The buy versus rent decision posting, I am going to actually post the Excel spreadsheet with the calculations, and all you have to do is look at these calculations and discuss whether it's a better idea to rent or to buy. It's a real nifty, real nice, to the point case study, and it's one that you can actually use if you're purchasing a home, or if you're thinking of purchasing a home in the future, or if you have someone who's going to be purchasing a home. This actually breaks down whether it's better to rent or to buy. In this case, this particular case study is really revealing, because we often do not think of the many variables that come to play whenever we are deciding to rent or to buy, because again, this is based on the time value of money. Okay, how much is money worth in 10 years? So most of the calculations I'm going to provide those in the Excel spreadsheet, because in the past I have seen students just trip all over themselves, focus too much on the calculations, focus too much on amortization values, and really neglect the point of the exercise, which is it better for you to buy or to rent? Okay, is it better to save that money or invest that money now and have a better return later, or is the property that you're going to buy, okay, is it going to be worth more in the future? Is this a worthwhile investment? This is the point of the discussion. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing the spreadsheet. You're going to be analyzing the data from the spreadsheet to help make up your decision. Okay. So I will be posting that today. It's a really great resource, and I think that you're going to enjoy that. Now, here comes to the meat of our discussion today, is the Milestone 1 investment project and the justification. This is a major deliverable. This is a major assignment. Remember, this class is made up of 3 major assignments. You have Milestone 1, 2, and 3. They make up the bulk of your final project. So this is one that you do not want to miss. Okay, it's worth many points, and if you miss it, you jeopardize not only the quality of your final project, but you could run the risk of falling behind to such an extent that passing the course becomes quite unsustainable. So you don't want to get into that situation. So let's go now into the rubric for Milestone 1. Okay. At this point in time, you should have already chosen the company, okay, that you're going to be doing your final project on. At this time, most of you have already done so. Okay. And the choices, of course, are between Arterix, LS Startup Company, and Nordstrom Inc. If you're not doing on these 3, or at least one of them, you have the wrong company. Okay, so please reach out to me, and we will discuss which of these 3 you're going to select. Okay. Now we're going to go into the Milestone 1 rubric. We're going to spend a little bit more time here. This is not a difficult paper. This is not a difficult assignment, but it has to be very detailed. And please remember that the details, it's a combination of narrative, okay, and numbers, financial numbers. You will have to provide those. It'll have to be a good balance between the 2 of them. I have seen in the past students who really don't understand the financial concepts, and they try to cover it up with a lot of fluff, with a lot of narrative, with very little numbers. That is a non-starter. That doesn't work. And I've seen very talented students who are very good with numbers, but they really don't have a narrative to this. You know, it's one thing for you to put 2 plus 2 equals 4. We all understand that, but at which context, right? You know, two Porsches plus 2 Porsches equals 4 Porsches, right? Or 2 tax collectors plus 2 tax collectors equals 4 tax collectors. So you see, there's a major difference. That's why you have to build good context, and good context is always created by good narrative. So remember, have a good balance between narrative and financial numbers, but please be very detailed in your financial numbers. So we're looking at the prompt right now. It says you have already chosen the company you will use for your final project, and you have started a narrative description of the expansion project into another country. This week I am going to grade the executive memo. This was that narrative that this is talking about. Okay. Last week I provided an actual template, an example of what a memo looks like and the information that has to be in there. So I'm believing that most of the work that was received was good, high quality, and it builds into your milestone projects. In this milestone, you will build on that narrative description, providing sufficient detail about the expansion, its cost, and its time frame to give a loan committee a firm sense of the proposed investment. You will also analyze the impact of the investment proposal on your business by explaining why now is the right time for this investment, given the global context, and by explaining how the investment is a good strategic fit with your company. This milestone addresses all of Section 1 and Section 2, Parts A and B only, of the final project. Now let's really go into it, and we'll break it down what it means. Okay. Now, these components will have to be addressed, and all of the components, okay, not just A, B, or C. It has to be A, B, and C. In the past, I had students only give me A, or give me A and B and forget about C. Okay, these omissions can be quite costly. Okay, now a word to the wise, because there are many different elements in this rubric. When you give your milestone papers, I have seen students not give any headings. This can be very difficult, not only for myself when I'm grading the paper, because generally this means I have to hunt for the information, sometimes spread out throughout all the paper. This is very dangerous, and I tell you why it's dangerous. Because I run the risk of making a mistake in grading. I could run the risk of not seeing a specific module or section of the rubric because it was spread out all over the paper. You see, you don't want to do that. The last thing you want to do is confuse me, especially when it comes to grading. You want to provide the information in an orderly fashion, right? So that whenever I'm grading, I can see the information there on its particular location where it has to be. So this way, I don't make a mistake, because I don't want to make a mistake. I want to give you every opportunity to maximize your points for this particular project. And so let's look into it. A word to the wise: the best thing to do is to arrange your headings of your paper just like the rubric. Okay, you see, for example, then you have investment project, that's your main heading, and your subheadings under that will be describe, resources, time frame. It provides a really great flow of the paper, and again, it minimizes errors in grading and also helps me to really get a good feel for what you are writing. Okay, if I have to hunt all over the paper for the information, again, there could be a risk of making grading mistakes. And, that's not good. It's not good for me. It's not good for you. Okay. Now, the investment project, you're going to first describe the investment project. Be sure to provide sufficient detail to give the loan committee a firm sense of the parameters of the activity. Okay. Again, the code word here is sufficient detail. Okay. Right. You're going to describe. Okay. I'm going to go with Alteryx, and this is why. Right. I am going to, I've chosen this company, and this is why I am doing this particular investment project. Okay. Again, give sufficient detail. Okay. And just a word to the wise: use APA citations and references. Okay. When you are giving figures that it did not come from you, you need to cite those, because if you don't, all of the grammar and the APA section of the rubric goes away. Right. You lose those. So provide sufficient detail to give the loan committee, right? So basically, you are communicating to the loan committee why it's a good idea for you to go ahead and expand abroad. So you're speaking to the loan committee. These people have the power, right? To lose, to forgive, to give, to provide you with the needed monies. So you want to give them good detail. Think about it when you are having a meeting with your boss, with your supervisor. Are you shoddy in the description, right? Do you bring, a half description to your boss? You don't, because your boss, your supervisor, your manager, they're going to ask, okay, well, what about this or what about that? And so, just as you want to be prepared in your everyday job, the same applies here. Okay, preparation. You're talking to the loan committee. Okay, and not your buddy on the cube next to you. Okay, uh, think of it as a loan committee as a very prestigious group. Okay, and here's another thing. Think of it this way: your career is on the line, right? And you're saying, well, this is just a paper, it's just an assignment for another course. I understand that, but most of the science of doing well in assignments and doing well in the course is when you take your mind and you take a different mindset, a different approach. It's almost like a simulation to the real thing. And you will find that you're really going to get a whole lot out of these assignments if you approach this in a very serious way. Okay? Give a firm a firm sense of the parameters of the activity, the need for it. Why do you need this project? Why does the company need to move abroad? Why the need for this new market? So explain. Well, we want to gain, more market share. We want to be the dominant players, or we want to be their main choice for our products or our services, right? Um, or, if you look at the global markets right now, they're exploding. There are fantastic opportunities for investments, and I believe that our company can grow from this. This is the need for this expansion, and be detailed about it, right? If you can say, well, global growth has blah 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 has grown blah 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 blah. The stock market is this way or that way, and we can fill in this niche, this void. We can make tons of money. Make sure you cite, make sure you document where you're getting that information. Okay. Now, and what are the financial metrics that are relevant for determining success? Mainly, how you're going to measure your success? Is it by the amount of money that you make, which is usually the case, right? How are you going to monitor that success? What financial ratios are you going to use? This is again where you're going to come with some financial numbers, where you're going to describe the tools they're going to use to measure that particular success. Okay? How are you going to measure it? Then you have to describe that process. This is again where numbers come in, right? You can describe it. Say, well, I am going to keep an eye on the balance sheet, or I'm going to measure sales, or I am going to also use financial metrics such as ratios. And if they are positive, then this is how I am measuring the success of this operation. Okay, some say, well, it's the amount of products being produced. Others say, well, again, linking to volume. Others say, well, I'm going to measure this also by how much market share has been increased, also by how many customers we now have, or how much our product is going forth, or by how many distributors we've been able to capture. So all these are some very important metrics that you can use, right, in measuring success. And in any business, success must be measured, right? Things must be monitored. If they're not monitored, and if they're not at all taken into account, because we live in a fluid world, in a global society, because our economies are so interchangeable, and our financial markets so sensitive to internal, particularly external factors and variables. Folks, if we don't keep a close ear to the ground or our fingers to our business's pulse, it can run away really fast and disaster can ensue. So you really want to make sure that you monitor, that you're measuring your business. Now, this is also very important. Specify the resources the project will require and where these resources will come from. What are the resources? Real estate. Are you going to rent or are you going to buy? Are you going to build a manufacturing plant? Okay. What kind of equipment are you going to need? What kind of technology are you going to need um, to, provide? Um, what is that word? The word just all of a sudden support, right? Uh, how about human resources? How many people you initially are going to have to hire? Okay. Particularly when it comes to human resources, if you're moving abroad, you better have a good human resource manager who understand that particular country's laws, their labor laws, their culture, how they do business. So that's a resource right there. Okay. Um, and so be very clear also where these resources will come from. Okay. Again, need to be very detailed about this. Okay. In addition to noting the amount of the loan you are requesting. Okay. So again, these are in US dollars. Be very clear about how much money you're going to need, right? And again, you should also consider human resources. We talked about the facilities, government approvals. Oh my goodness. For those of you who are moving, particularly to Brazil, be ready to factor in a huge amount of time because the bureaucracy there is a killer. Okay. Um, and in some countries, like Latin countries, Central American countries, the bureaucracy is endemic. And another thing that you're going to have to come across is bribes. Because there are certain things here in the United States, bribes are not cool, they're not legal, they're not ethical. However, in some other countries, it's a different story. I'm not saying that you're going to bribe, that you're going to suborn or these things, but these are things that you're going to have to talk to have a good discussion about. Intellectual property. Those of you who are doing particular business in China, this is going to be huge. Why? Because there's litigation in the World Trade Organization from the United States, American companies against China. Why? Because China is stealing intellectual property from the United States. There's a lot of pirating going on. There's a lot of corporate spying happening. And so, do you have the wherewithal to protect your intellectual property? Can you protect it? Right? We all know the big case about Boeing being extorted by the Chinese government, saying, okay, if you want to establish your logistics, here, part of it, then you're going to have to give us part of the technology for the Boeing 737. So, do you have enough? Do you have enough? Not only in terms of lawyering up, legal protection, but also, right, physical protection to protect your company's intellectual property. Okay, access to natural resources, right? Water. Some of you have chosen companies that have particularly manufacturing, that have a need of water. They have access to those resources, right? Also, iron, right? Mineral resources. Where are you going to get them from? And other resources that might require to carry out the project. So this is going to be very important. Now, the time frame is also huge. When will the project start? Is it within a year? Is it within 2 years? Remember, don't run. Don't say we want to start tomorrow. Capital budgeting is all about the planning. Okay, you have a good capital budget and plan. You don't have to rush. You don't have to dawdle, but you don't have to rush. Okay, sometimes I've seen projects start, planning for a project that will start in 5 years. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes, a project that is planned to start within 2 years. That's pretty much uh, 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 in certain industries what the standard is. Okay, so talk about when it's going to start and what is the anticipated economic life of the proposed expansion. How long will it last? Okay, hopefully forever, right? Hopefully you're going to make tons of money in this expansion. It's going to be great. Okay, but what is the anticipated economic life? Because do remember, you're not the only cat in town. You're not the only product in town. There's some products which enjoy for a time what we call a monopoly, right? For example, iPhone X, right? That's a big thing. Now, for a time, it's going to be the big mover and shaker in town, right? But let me back up. There was a time when there was an Android and there were other smartphones, and iPhone was pretty much the only one in town, right? I mean, there was BlackBerry, but the BlackBerry didn't count and still doesn't count. Um, but for a time, the first entrance into a market will enjoy a certain amount of fun in the sun, right? Kind of a honeymoon period. But then comes the competition, and it takes that away from you, right? So, what is the economic life of the proposed extension, and how will you decide if, when, or how to exit? Now, this is important. If things fall apart, how are you going to leave? You're just going to say, well, I ain't in love with you no more, woman. You think I don't love you anymore, I'm going to leave you, goodbye. No, you don't do that, right? You don't do that with relationships. You can't do that with your business. Okay? You need to have an exit strategy. Liquidation, how much of it's going to be liquidated? How are you going to get rid of things? Okay? How are you going to deal with, surplus inventory? What are you going to do with your labor force? Okay? So there are things that must be done in order for you to exit into a market. Or you're going to say, hey, I'm already in town. How about I just move this over to another country that pretty much in the vicinity, or another location in the country, and maybe, hopefully, we can get a better deal out of this. So, these are things that you will need to justify with appropriate financial metrics. Again, just don't say, well, we're going to leave if things get bad. And boom. No. Say, well, we hope it never gets to this. This is like plan Z. But if the metrics don't line up, if our balance sheet is in the complete red, so red that it makes vampires happy, or excited, it's so red that they call the cops on me because, they're calling me a murderer because there's so much red on the floor. Okay. If the ratios are not good, if the operation is sluggish and we can't justify being there anymore, justify those choices with the appropriate financial metrics. These are going to be very important to do so. Okay. Now we come to the justification part, okay, of the project, and this is 3. In this section, you should analyze the impact of the investment proposals on your business. In particular, you should cover. Now, A, why is now a good time for this investment given the global context? Justify your response, citing specific external factors such as trade regulations, foreign currency considerations, or trends in foreign direct investment that might affect business financial decisions. I can tell you right now, this is a good time to open businesses abroad. Okay. Some say, but we have the situation here in the United States with the Trump administration. We don't know what's going to happen. I can tell you exactly what is going to happen. You know what it is? Business will continue. We are in a global environment, ladies and gentlemen. A global environment. And globalism will not come to an end. This is a reality of life. Now, what we are seeing here in the United States of America and in some parts of Europe, it's not really a protectionist agenda. It's not a retraction of the participation abroad. This is not what you're seeing. Now, this is what is being portrayed as. But if you look at our stock market, if you look at the pronouncements by the government, if you look at the direction, sometimes it's important, right, for you to read between the lines. Remember, there is something that the government says for internal consumption. There's another message that is sent towards base. There's another message that is sent to its adversaries, and there's another message that is sent to their allies. Sometimes it's all mixed in, but people, different part of the messages are for different constituencies. All right. And the way I am seeing this, okay, the United States of America government is not walking away from the world. Now, what we will see most likely is a renegotiation, let's say, of NAFTA. It's a renegotiation of certain trade deals, okay, with other countries. But this angst that it's out there, it's purely imaginary, okay? Because if you look at our stock market, if you look at the volume of trade now taking place, really doesn't square at all with what the message that is being sent out there. Now, again, I'm not a politician. I do not have a political party. Okay, I'm just a lowly international business professor, as well as finance and economics. Okay, just a very humble one of that. But the way that I'm seeing this, okay, is that this is a tremendous time for businesses to invest abroad, particularly in emerging markets. Now, stay away from Venezuela for now, okay? And of course, can't do business with North Korea. But it's a good time. Now, you're going to have to justify why it's good for your company, right? Okay, and then we're going to talk about strategic fit. But if you look at all of the financial indicators, all of the key financial indicators, everything is pointing out this is a great time to invest abroad. Now, you're going to have to justify why it's going to be important for your company to go abroad right now. Okay, why certain markets are better for you. Okay, why is Brazil better for you? Why is China better for you? Why is Shanghai better for you, for your company? Okay, why is South Africa a good market for you? You're going to have to justify, and that's where strategic fit comes in. Okay, for example, you're going to have to think about your company. Okay, and remember, abroad said, why now is a good time to invest globally? Now you can think about your company. Why is a good fit for your company, right? Not just a generic company, but for your company. Think about your market. Think about what you do. Think about the service. Think about your products. Think about the nature of your company, the image of your company, the brand of your company, and how does this particular expansion, which you are going to expand, right, abroad, and why is it a good fit strategically? Okay. Now, how does the investment align with the company's organization and financial priorities? Okay. Remember, some companies are not organizationally ready or fit to expand abroad, but these companies are. Okay. But why? Okay. And what are the financial priorities? Why is it a good fit for you to expand abroad right now? Okay. Support your argument with evidence from what? Company reports and financial statement analysis, designed to persuade the lender that the investment is a good strategic fit for your company. Again, just don't tell the lending committee, hey guys, we're going to expand, it's a great fit, and we're going to make tons of money. Well, they're going to come back at you and say, hey, where did you get your MBA from? Cracker Barrel box? Right? They're like, no, you give us financials. You prove to us using our own reports, the company reports, okay? And also, how does the project fit within the global microeconomic environment? Okay. Support your response with evidence. For example, would the expansion and tap unmet demand for the company's key products or services or fill in a new niche? How do you know? Okay. How does the project build on the organization's core competencies? Well, right? And comparative advantage. Two big words, core competencies. What is your company good at? Right? Are you making computers? Are you making glasses? Is this what you are known for? And does this expansion fit within what you do, right? And comparative advantage. What are the advantages that you have for going into this market? Are you a new entrant? Is there something unique about your particular product, right? Pricing. And we're going to talk about pricing later on, okay? Um, so, for example, does the company have a strategic advantage from intellectual property, right? Is it your code, right? Is your digital product something that sets you apart in that particular market? Okay, is it that your product, is it that your services has a regional expertise that other companies cannot meet? For example, back in the late 1800s, Brazil had an emperor, okay, Dom Pedro II, and believe it or not, he was way better than what replaced him. He was a scholar. He was a philosopher. He helped lead the fight to free the slaves in Brazil. He believed in technology. He believed in education, set up a few universities. And one thing that he looked for was new agricultural and industrial knowledge, expertise. So what he did? He opened the door and he first contracted with American companies, American consultants at the time. That's what our names for them would be now. And he opened wide the doors for American immigration into Brazil, particularly people with agricultural skills. Okay, because he knew that Brazil needed to advance agrarian in terms of agriculture. They needed new techniques. Brazil needed new technology, okay, to enhance its agricultural practices. And also, they needed the technology and the industrial know-how to industrialize Brazil. Okay, right? So, is your company in that same position that where you are going to go into? Okay, your company provides that particular good and services that that particular region or area or country needs. Okay, does your company, is that set apart? Does it set you apart from other companies? And of course, your suppliers or organizational structure. Okay, so all in all, it's a pretty nice a paper, not difficult at all. Now let's look at the guidelines for submission. Again, your investment project justification paper should be 8 to 10 pages in length, excluding spreadsheets, other exhibits, okay, and list of references, meaning the meat of your paper has to be 8 to 10 pages. Don't give me 10 pages, right? Where 5 of them are references and 1 is a APA cover page. That doesn't work. Okay, 8 to 10 pages of content. Okay, and of course you need your APA cover page and you need your references. And please don't forget the in-text citations. It should be double spaced with 12 point Times New Roman font and 1-inch margins, and it has to use APA format for references and citations, not references or citations, but references and citations. Okay. I want to bring to your attention really quick how I grade, because there's always some hoorah, sometimes there is some angst, sometimes there's some back and forth. In my previous feedback, I provided exactly how I'm grading, but repetition is a good thing. Okay, this is what I'm looking at. Okay, for example, on your investment project described, proficient needs improvement and not evident. Okay, for you to get proficient, your paper, the content for the investment project has to meet this criteria. Okay, if it doesn't, then it goes here, needs improvement. If it doesn't, it goes here. Okay, notice that there's no middle ground between these values. Okay, it's either proficient, needs improvement, or not evident. Okay, And note that these are the particular elements that you need to have in your paper. Okay? So again, make these, right, your headings. Now, here's the thing about articulation of response, which is very important. Okay? I have had students howl to the moon because they get upset that all of a sudden they get a 0 in this on the articulation of response. Oh, but I did references. Yeah, but did you do citations? You see, you you can put references in the bottom, but if you did not do citations, you don't get any points for this. Okay? If you do citations but you do no references, you get no points for it, right? Because a paper without citation is technically not a paper, right? And I explained this in previous feedback, okay? A paper without any citation, it's not a paper, not technically a paper. I don't even have to accept it for grading, okay? So please don't forget to include citations, okay? Another thing, please make sure that you run the spell checker, prior to handing your paper. It's good form and also sets you apart. Why? You would not want to give your supervisors a paper full of mistakes. I've done that before. And let me tell you, I paid the price for it and I had to learn the hard way. You don't want to do that to a supervisor. And also, you don't want to do this in your schoolwork. Okay. So run the spell checker, because if you don't, then I have to run the spell checker. And if I catch mistakes, you're going to lose points in your articulation of response. Okay. Anyways, I look forward to reading some amazing Milestone 1 papers. Okay. Again, if you have any questions, any concerns, please reach out to me. And it will be, of course, a pleasure to help you out with your work. All right, folks. This is the end of the rubric review. And I look forward to, again, getting to see some fantastic work. I want to encourage you to always give your best, because these are skill sets that you can apply in your everyday work. It doesn't matter. You don't even need to have a financial background or a financial career. Some of these concepts that you're going to learn here, and you are learning in this course right now, you can apply it not only to future courses, but in many different areas in your own life. We talked about the rent versus buy decision. That's one of them. Time value of money, that can be very useful, particularly when you're investing, you're thinking about retirement. This is something that's very important, right? At any rate, we're also going to, at another time, discuss the elements of risk within your operation. So I put the graphics right over there, green screens.